The other day, someone asked me how I go about writing a sermon. Every once in a while, I explained, I go to bed at night, and when I wake up in the morning, the sermon is right there in my head, word for word, waiting for me to rush to my keyboard and spew it back onto the page as fast as I can type. Alas, that did not happen for me this week. So the second way to write a sermon is by studying the Torah portion. And in this case, it is Shemot, the beginning of the book of Exodus. And so I thought, perhaps that would provide an appropriate theme for this first week of the new year. The beginning of a new book, the beginning of a new chapter in history, perhaps. So I waited for some earth-shattering event to appear on my TV or computer screen, but nothing. At least nothing that wasn't terribly depressing. With time running out, I decided to leave the keyboard and take one of my prescribed short walks, which is the only exercise I'm allowed to do post-back surgery. But that didn't work either. It was too cold to even think. Instead, inspiration came in the most unlikely of places, at a funeral. My writing process, you see, was interrupted by a call from the funeral home. After the service was over, I approached the daughter-in-law and told her that I would probably be using her cashmere sweater story in a sermon someday. And then, when I got home, it struck me. This is the day. You see, the deceased, who all agree was a loving, energetic, intelligent, creative woman, loved to go shopping. But there was some controversy among the family members about whether I should even mention this well-known fact in the eulogy, for fear that it might lead to the false impression that she was consumeristic. Nothing could be further from the truth, they declared, for indeed, her shopping method was to invest only in pieces of high quality that would last forever. Yeah, quipped her husband. Go into her closet right now and you will see 70 high-quality blouses hanging there to illustrate the point. In any case, instead of downplaying her shopping, I did just the opposite. And that became the organizing metaphor for the entire eulogy. For just as this was a woman who believed in investing in high-quality items that would last a lifetime, she also invested in spending high-quality, fully present time with her family so as to create memories that would last a lifetime. I thought it was pretty good myself. But the shopping metaphor turned out to be even more apt than I originally thought once I heard the cashmere sweater story. You see, one day, her daughter-in-law decided to purchase for herself an expensive cashmere sweater. She went shopping at Saks and had narrowed it down to 5 or 6 options. Wanting her mother-in-law's excellent fashion advice before making such a significant investment, she asked her which one she should choose. Her mother-in-law looked at her with a smile and said, "Why choose? Buy them all." And that was transformative for me, she continued with tears, truly tears in her eyes, because in telling me to purchase those 5 sweaters, she was actually telling me that I deserved such nice things, even 5 of them, that I was worthwhile. Well, that's a very nice story for a eulogy, you might say, but what does this say about how to write a sermon? Well, with that story in mind, I went back to the Torah portion that had me stumped, and I came again upon the story of the burning bush. But this time, in rereading its words, it suddenly occurred to me that God gives Moses a physical gift of self-esteem as well, one that turns out to be the equivalent of 5 cashmere sweaters. You see, after God instructs Moses to go down and tell Pharaoh to let my people go, Moses begs God to choose someone more deserving, more eloquent. Who am I, he laments, that I should go to Pharaoh and free the Israelites from Egypt? I am slow of tongue and have never been good with words. But God persists in his request and indeed goes to great lengths to convince Moses to take on this heady responsibility. First, by actually sharing with Moses, for the very first time in history, the ineffable and secret name of God. Ehyeh Asher Ehyeh. But that was not enough to convince Moses. So then, God helps Moses to perform some actual small miracles, real magic tricks, if you will, but to no avail. Then the Almighty God even tries gentle reassurance. Who gives speech to humans after all, God asks. Don't worry, Moses. I will be with you as you speak. But Gornish Helfen, even this divine encouragement does not do the trick. No, it is only when God says, Moses, take this rod with you in order to perform the signs. And it is only at that moment that Moses turns around and heads off to Egypt to free the slaves. Wait, let me get this straight. God shares God's secret and ineffable name with Moses, and that does not work. God helps Moses to perform miracles, and that does not work. Even kind words and divine reassurances do not work. But then, God gives him a stick, and that works? But in light of the cashmere sweater story, it all suddenly made sense to me. Just as that gesture from a loving mother-in-law around a few schmatas allowed her daughter-in-law to feel her own value profoundly, God giving Moses that rod enabled him to hold on to something tangible, a physical manifestation of God's trust in him. As with the cashmere sweaters, that stick for Moses translated into a sense of self-esteem and thus self-confidence, the confidence to feel that even a stutterer could be a hero. You've heard the quote before, I am sure. Maya Angelou famously said, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And friends, in this first week of the new year, I am asking you to join in this gift-giving of self-esteem movement that we are starting right here on this Bima tonight. Perhaps we will call it the Make Another Person Feel Good About Themselves crusade. And all you have to do to join is to endeavor to give one other person the sacred gift of self-esteem. It need not be through a physical object. You don't have to buy expensive sweaters or a fancy cane. But it should be something tangible to the recipient. It might take the form of an extra phone call or visit, of a compliment freely offered, or an open ear extended to truly listen to what the other is saying. It might come in the form of a friendly smile or a sincere thank you, an affirmation, or even an apology. Maybe it will just be a well-timed and loving hug. Or perhaps it will come in the form of a cashmere sweater, or 5 or 6. In this way, we too, like God in our Torah portion or the mother-in-law in my eulogy, may become redeemers by setting free the best in the people around us through the sacred gift of self-esteem. And that, my friends, is how you write a sermon. Shabbat Shalom.